Vision, drive, and generosity. If you look down the list of Denham Jolly's accomplishments, those traits arise again and again. An educator, activist, and entrepreneur, you may best remember Mr. Jolly as the relentless force behind Canada's first Black-owned and themed radio station. In 2001, Flow 93.5 hit the airwaves and helped launch some of the biggest names in Canadian music. It's just one of the many struggles and successes Mr. Jolly chronicles in his newly published autobiography. It's called In the Black, My Life, and it brings the remarkable Denham Jolly to our studio tonight. It's a great pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much,
I've
Steve.
watched your career and your accomplishments over the years and your struggles, as we suggested in the
Thank
opening.
you.
So
Thank
I
you.
can't believe we haven't met until now. I'm glad to do so.
Me neither.
I actually don't want to start from the beginning of the book. I want to start closer to the end, which was the big struggle you had to get that radio station going. You bid the first time and lost. You bid again a second time and lost. Couldn't get the frequency from the CRTC. Why do you think it was so hard to make that thing a reality?
I think the CRTC was a little nervous because no one like us, they'd never seen an application like ours before.
What did that mean, an application like ours?
They'd never seen a black broadcaster in Canada, and they were a little nervous about it.
Nervous about what?
About it being a success. They like to have they like to choose successfully. And so they were nervous about it. Also, the type of music that we were offering to play was not played in Canada. And they were nervous about that too.
Well, in fact, when you went in to sort of make your presentation and told them what your theme was going to be, I guess somebody asked you, what is black music? Do you remember how you reacted when you heard that question?
They did. I was flabbergasted. I thought, not good. But we gave them an answer. And I still, sometimes I rationalize it to say, well, they like to, at these inquisitions, they like to ask questions for the record. So maybe they wanted it for the record.
You got beat by a country music station.
That's right.
You got beat for a frequency in the city of Toronto by a country music station.
Yes.
What'd you think when that happened?
I thought they were not in touch with reality, not in touch with Toronto.
No kidding.
Because even the chairman, first time in history he'd ever wrote a dissenting opinion.
Keith Spicer.
Yes. And he said, what are you guys talking about, if I could paraphrase him? This should have been done 10 years ago to celebrate the grand diversity of Toronto. But nevertheless, they did. And the funny thing about that was, at that time, 18 commissioners were at the CRTC. They usually sent 5 out in the field for a hearing. And none of the 5 that came out to listen to her actual words, although, as I said, they have records, none of the 5 that came out actually voted for that station. It was the 13 that stayed back in Ottawa.
Any of those 13 people happen to be African Canadians who voted against you?
Are you kidding me?
Not a one. Huh? Not a one?
No.
Not a one.
I don't believe in African Canadian. Well, I think Phil Fraser might have served on the CRTC once.
Phil Fraser.
Yeah.
Remember him, yeah. Alberta.
Yes.
Human Rights Commission in
Right.
Alberta.
And he was here as the president of Vision.
Right. When you finally, for the third time, applied and won, how'd you feel about that?
Oh, well, Father, things have changed. They've finally woken up. They've seen the light. And here we are.
Any great sense of vindication?
Very much so. Because at that time, there were artists that were very popular, but not on the Canadian airwaves. And there were a lot of people tuning in to WBLK in Buffalo. In fact, the people who would have rhythm and blues and concerts in our genre, they had to go advertise it in Buffalo to get an audience here in Toronto.
One of the things that perhaps people with white faces in the province of Ontario didn't appreciate is that there's no such thing as the black community, right? There are several different black communities in Toronto.
I'll agree with that.
And you ran into some pushback from a number of them, right? Like the Jamaicans didn't necessarily like what the Trinidadians wanted played, and the Trinidadians didn't necessarily like what the Grenadians wanted played. How did you deal with all of that?
Well, in the end, we played what the general audience wanted. You know, in the radio, there's a lot of testing and polling and focus groups, and we went with what they wanted. And also, you know, from the start, I said to them, you know, will have two imperatives. It will have a social imperative, and it will have an economic imperative. And that will be our raison d'etre. And so for the economic imperative, to fulfill a social imperative, you need to be viable. And so we went for viability.
Well, in viability, when you started, I guess you could be a standalone radio station with a single owner and be viable, but the business has changed so much, it's all consolidated. So after how many years did you feel you had to sell it?
And it was changing.
Yeah.
And it was changing. Well, you know, we were so sentimentally attached to it that we knew probably 2 or 3 years down the road that we might have to sell it, but we didn't want to. Even when people came and offered astronomical sums of money, we were quite hesitant. But then, like you say, you know, there was an avalanche of amalgamation, you know, Astral and Bell and Chum, and standing alone was just not viable anymore.
So you eventually sold the station, and have you listened to it lately?
I've listened to it lately, yes.
What do you think?
Well, it's changed a bit.
No kidding.
And it would have to, you know, taste change. And when someone like the owner, the present owner, they have a number of stations and probably more than one in this market, so they can't very well compete with themselves.
No, but Mr. Jolly, I got to tell you, I listened to the station just the other day, and when I flipped it on, do you know who was playing? Britney Spears.
Okay.
Now, that's not exactly what you had in mind when you set up
no,
a black-themed radio station.
No, we didn't play Britney Spears, although we played Lady Gaga.
Well, she's got soul.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back then. I think one of the funniest, I guess most interesting things I learned about you was why you are named what you are named. Who are you named after?
I'm named after a governor that didn't leave a very good reputation in Jamaica, Sir Edward Brandes Denham. And I think he had such problems running the country that he died from a heart attack.
Exactly. And what was life like for you growing up in Jamaica 80 plus years ago?
Well, for me, it was idyllic, I think. We didn't have electricity or running water, but we had 300 acres of land on the beach, and we could go for swims, go horseback riding, go fishing, lots of friends to play cricket and soccer with. So it was idyllic.
If it was idyllic, why did you decide early in life that you wanted to move to Guelph, Ontario to go to school there?
Because everyone wants to broaden their horizons, you know, and the opportunities just were not there to do that. So I had to leave the country. I didn't want to go to the United States.
Why not?
It didn't appeal to me. You know,
Why not?
Well, I didn't like their racial policies, for one thing. And Canada was part of the Commonwealth. And I thought it would be an easier transition to a Commonwealth country. And so, and the exact situation I wanted to go to an agricultural college presented itself. So I took it.
What'd you think of your first winter in Canada?
You know, it was very traumatic because I thought, well, just put on another shirt. That didn't work. Put on a jacket, that didn't work. And then I learned the real deal. You had to have special clothing for that.
I appreciate the fact that well, it was virtual apartheid in parts of the United States when you were thinking about leaving Jamaica and moving somewhere in North America. So I get why you didn't want to go there. But we shouldn't leave people with the impression that you were coming to a racism-free country when you came to Canada. And I guess I note you had to sign something before you came to Canada pledging that you wouldn't stay when you're finished being a student here.
Correct.
What was that all about?
Well, you know, Canada has, in those days, tried to keep, and still does, try to keep the black population to 0.02% of the general population.
You think the country still tries to do that?
I think so. And there you have it. And you could come and study, but please leave.
Were you offended by having to sign that oath?
I was, because more so when I got here, because my lab partner, for example, was from Holland, and he was landed no problem. You know, had all the benefits, all the bursaries, and what have you. And the hypocrisy of it all, I don't think Holland was a Commonwealth country.
And yet he didn't have to sign anything
No,
pledging to go home.
No, and my uncle had gone and risked his life in the war for the Commonwealth. And here now, push comes to shove, well, you're a Commonwealth when we need you.
How much of a role do you think that played in making you more politically and socially conscious?
Well, it did play a large role, because someone asks a relative of yours or your countrymen to sacrifice their life, and all you want to say, okay, can I stay and make a living? They say no. You know, you want me to protect you, but you don't want me to prosper.
Having said that, there was a moment where you either could stay here or go back to Jamaica, and you wanted to stay here in spite of that.
Yes, I did.
So how come?
When I graduated, after having lived here for 5 years, not only did I see all the opportunities, but all my friends were here. It was a formative time in my life, from teenager to early 20s. And most of my friends back home weren't there anymore, or had moved on.
So Jamaica was not calling you home?
No. My home was really here. And I had to go. I had to do what Romney said a couple of years ago, self-deportation.
Self-deportation.
Yeah.
So you did do that, eh?
I did do that.
You had to go back,
Yes, I did.
but then you ended up staying here.
Yes.
How did that decision come about?
Well, when I went back, I ran into my old friends from McGill, and they had a circle of friends in Kingston that they partied with and drank. And one of those guys was a gentleman named Thompson from Winnipeg that worked in the Canadian consulate. And Thompson was a cool guy. I just gave him his rum, and he was cool, his bicycle. And I told him, I'd love to come back. And he arranged it without me even going to the office. So the joke was on these guys here who kicked me out.
See, I find that very interesting, was that, of course, you ran into incidents of racism in the country, but you also ran into people who were prepared to be as colorblind as the times allowed, right?
Absolutely. A large number of them, and I wouldn't have been here without some of them. You know, in business and in social life and everywhere.
I want to drop a name with you here, and I want you to tell me what first comes to mind. Harry Gary.
Oh, he was a trailblazer.
How so?
He was an activist. He was fearless. He stood up for what he thought was right. In fact, there's a rink at Bathurst and Dundas that's named after him right now.
In downtown Toronto?
Yes.
What do you think his great contribution was?
His great contribution was standing up for his rights and demanding what everyone else gets for granted. And he was successful at it. He was fearless. He too had gone to war and figured, why should I be in it? When times of war comes, you want me to go, but when I want to live a normal life, you don't want me to, and that's not on.
Did we, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, so I want you to characterize it for me. I mean, one of the things that propelled him to become a civil rights leader was if he wanted to use a public pool or he wanted to use a public skating rink, what were the rules in place at the time?
No blacks, and in some cases, no Jews. And he didn't think that was right, and he went all the way to City Hall. And you asked me if there are people who have helped me. There are always people around, as did Mr. Gary. I think he mentions a guy named Joe Salzberg, a Jewish gentleman, counselor, to whom he complained when his son was not allowed in the skating rink. And Joe Salzberg said, you come on down to City Council on Monday morning. And Mr. Gary went there. And he was very forthright. He said, it's okay if when a time of war comes, you don't ask me to go fight. But if you ask me to go fight, I don't see why my son can't go to the skating rink, which was a very logical argument. And they relented.
Joe Salzberg was a persuasive guy. He was the last communist member of the Ontario legislature.
There you go.
Joe Salzberg, yeah, and he went to bat for him.
Yes.
You also were part of that original group that founded something called the Black Business and Professional Association. Why did you feel it necessary to create that group?
Because there were any number of liberties being taken with the black community and people of color by the police with no redress. In fact, there was one famous story where everybody thought this cop was guilty of murder. Of course, he was exonerated and came out with no remorse, smoking a cigar. Yeah. And we thought, this is just, we have to stand up and do something about this. And at least in some instances, not even an inquest was held. Like a dog died on the street, And we thought, no, this is just not right. There has to be some accountability when any human loses their life. And so we thought that there had to be some redress. And in fact, in the end, it was successful with the great Dudley Laws, who, with his leadership and his forthrightness, we ended up with SIU, as timid as it is. There is some accounting for police misadventures.
I covered many press conferences of Mr. Laws when he founded the Black Action Defense Committee. And, I know for a fact there are probably a lot of white people in the province of Ontario who thought this guy is a bad dude.
Yes.
You did not see him that way.
No, I loved him. He was my personal friend. And I supported him 150%. In fact, the police were his main antagonist because he called them the most murderous force in North America. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the record, it's not far from the truth. I don't know about North America, but they were murderous. And for that, they spent $1 million and had 32 policemen monitoring him and tried to frame him. Mm.
Well, we're going back about 30, 35 years right now, and there were a spate of police shootings in the city of Toronto, which ended up in a black man being killed, and I can't recall anybody going to jail for any of those things.
No, and in one instance, Albert Johnson,
right,
his son and the coroner and the ballistics experts testified that he was probably executed because the bullet came down. So he must have been on his knees.
I want to go back to an earlier chapter of your life, and I guess again, one of the you've had a fascinating life.
Oh, thank you very much.
And one of the stories I found fascinating was that your first marriage was to a woman named Carol, who's a white woman from Sault Ste. Marie.
Correct.
You got married in the early 60s, mid 60s? Is that right?
Yeah, 67.
67, okay. I'm trying to imagine
65.
A black man and a white woman in Sault Ste. Marie. Nothing against the Sioux, but okay, I mean, it probably would have been the same anyway. We're talking 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And yet, there isn't much in this book that suggests that you guys had too much of a rough ride because of that.
Well, there were two circumstances. We weren't married while we were in the Sioux. And I left the Sioux, we had met and we were courting. I left the Sioux to work at Forest Hill.
You were teaching up there?
Yes, and she left the Sioux to become a nurse. And then we got married secretly in Toronto, even without her parents' knowledge. So you probably, but the parents turned out to be great people. In fact, her dad had been to the war, and he had another daughter that was married to an American, and he was totally different towards him. He said, well, you're a Commonwealth guy, so everything's cool. I don't care.
He's okay with you?
Yes.
He didn't like the American son-in-law?
No, sir. There was some friendly fire in the war.
Right.
He was a doctor, and there was some friendly fire incident, and he didn't like it.
You do chronicle in this book numerous battles you have had over the years. We talked about the CRTC already. Bank managers who gave you a hard time because they wouldn't give you loans. We haven't talked about some of the politicians that you ran into over the years who you didn't necessarily have a great time with. You told me before we went on you thought Bill Davis was okay. On the other hand, you had some run-ins with Hazel McCallion, the mayor of Mississauga. What was that all about?
I don't know what she had against me, but she was always antagonistic toward me. When we had a flooding problem from the creek, and then We'd been there about 25 years when the gas company said you have to put up a $25,000 deposit. I was okay with my monies, with my payments. So I thought I'd call her up. Here I am employing 150 people in her writing, with 200 of her residents in my retirement home and nursing home, that she would be concerned if the power was going to be cut off in the middle of winter. Well, she never called back until much later. And she said, oh, I hear you, without any introduction, I hear you won't pay your bills. I said, well, Mayor McCanny will pay my bills. And she said, well, you don't pay your bills, it's like the taxes. You don't pay your tax, we'll take away your house. We have all these grow-ups in the province and in the area. So, at which stage I said to her, Mayor McCanny, and I didn't call to talk about grow-ups. And I hung up the phone in their ears.
Did you guys ever resolve that down the road?
No. I got a lawyer to settle the gas company's problems. But I thought that was very unsportsmanlike of her, to say the least.
And for the record, you weren't growing marijuana plants in those homes.
Well, no. They were occupied by seniors.
Let's go here next. I want you to tell us a story. Actually, I think you opened the book with this story. This is a very troubling story about how a fender bender turned into something potentially much more dangerous. You want to tell the story?
Yeah, I just slipped out of my house and went 2 blocks over to Parliament Street to pick something up. I was leaving and we had a fender bender. The cops, we were exchanging documents and the police came and he said, well, you're going to have to use that tow truck. I said, well, I have my own tow truck because I have CAA and my car has roadside assistance. He said, no, you're going to have to use that tow truck. So being the person I am, I said, well, it got to the point where I had to say, well, I know my rights and I don't have to use your tow truck. He says, do I have to put a gun to your face? So it's Parliament Street, it's busy, so I shouted out so everyone could hear. Now you want to shoot me?
When did this happen?
It happened about 3 years ago in the summer.
3 years ago?
Yeah.
So you're like 79 years old?
Yes. And I figured, so it is true what goes on with those young kids at Jane Finch, because if he can do that to me, a senior, what would he have done to them, And then he sat there and waited until my tow truck came, called for backup. And so I went directly to the station and complained about it. Nothing happened. I went in and spoke to finally the investigating detective called me in and said, we're going to charge this guy. What do you think we should do with him? I said, well, don't fire him. But with his attitude, he needs some very serious attitude adjustment. Home remedies won't work for him. 10 days later, I got a thing in the mail. We cannot substantiate your claim. I thought he might have gone to one of his upper guys and said, well, you're crazy. You can't charge him for this kind of guy. Because when the report came and I read it, the first lines were, the complainant is a 77-year-old Jamaican immigrant. What that has to do with an accident, I don't know.
Well, a 77-year-old Jamaican immigrant who's only lived in Canada for 60 years.
Yes, and been a citizen for over 55. Meanwhile, the guy, with no offense, was an Eastern European immigrant because he could hardly speak English, was mixing up his pronouns. Where is his insurance? I said, I don't know where his insurance is. Go ask him.
What do incidents like that make you conclude about how good a job we have done in this society to be as colorblind as we think we are?
Well, one thing it tells me is that you never stop being an immigrant. You're never accepted, And I thought I had done my part. I had made a huge contribution. I was meeting a payroll of 200 people every Friday. That's a fair contribution to a society. But I'm still an immigrant.
Well, in the eyes of some narrow-minded racists, maybe.
Absolutely. There's some very nice people that I've met that have helped me along the road that I can never forget. When I built my first nursing home, I had a commitment from Morguard Trust for $1 million. I went to my bank manager of 10 years and said, I need $300,000 which is less than a third of that money, as a bridging loan to put down the concrete so the mortgage company would come through, and he refused. So I went back to the mortgagee, and he said, "You come with me." And I went over there with him, and he just said, "You lend this man the money, or you're not going to see not a nickel from me." And to this day, I'm ashamed his name escapes me right now. But people like that, when I went up to the Soo, I dropped in to see a friend of a friend. Jack Horsley had gone to school with a guy named Davis at U of T. And he said, "If you go up to the Soo, check out my buddy, Jack Horsley." So I checked out Jack. I wasn't yet located. And Jack said, "Where are you staying?" I said, "I'm staying at the Y." I said, "Oh, stay here, man, stay here. He just got married. Stay here." It didn't have a big place. Stay here. And I stayed there until a few days until I got settled. And to this day, Jack and I are friends.
So a country that features great acts of kindness and acts that make you really scratch your head.
Yes, sir. But I do appreciate the ones that have come through for me.
And I appreciate your having written this book, which has got a really great title, In the Black.
Thank you, sir.
As a businessman, you, of course, always want to be in the black.
Absolutely.
And this is really a great chronicle of the achievements of your, what are you now, 82 years old?
81, 82 in August.
82 in August. We wish you a happy 82nd birthday when it comes, and we thank you for visiting us here at TVO tonight. Denham Jolly. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Steve. I'm a fan of yours too, sir.
Appreciate it.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.